Soft music drifts in, like a breeze moving across ancient seas. In the old world of Greece, myths lived beside the voices of mortals. Among the gods, there was Athena, guardian of wisdom and calm reason. She was not known for fury, but for guiding minds toward clarity and light. And among the mortals, there was Jason, a man seeking purpose and courage. He was not the Jason of battles, but one walking a quieter, uncertain path. The night sky above whispered questions he could not yet answer. Every star seemed to speak of destiny, but his heart trembled with doubt. What does it mean to be a hero when no sword can solve the riddle? What path must be taken when strength alone cannot open the way? It is in this fragile space that Athena chooses to draw near, not with thunder, but with a voice that steadies the wandering soul. This is not a tale of conquest or of blood spilled on the ground. It is a journey of wisdom, of choices made with gentle courage. So come closer. Listen as the sea folds its rhythm into silence. Here begins the story of Athena and the mortal called Jason. The morning sun rose slowly, spilling gold across the hills of Thessaly. Jason walked along a narrow path, his steps heavy with thought. The call of birds filled the air, yet inside him there was only silence. For many nights he had dreamed of a journey, a quest unnamed and unclear. It was not a dream of war, nor of riches, nor of crowns to be won. It was a whisper, a soft voice urging him to leave comfort and seek truth. Jason felt both excitement and fear, two tides pulling against one another. He was young, strong, and respected, but his heart remained unsettled. The villagers often praised his courage, yet he wondered what it meant. What is courage if it serves no greater purpose, no guiding flame? He asked himself this question as the breeze tugged at his cloak. The earth smelled of pine and stone, grounding him even as his thoughts soared. Stories of heroes filled his childhood, but those tales were heavy with battles. Jason longed for meaning beyond the clash of swords and the roar of war. He believed there must be another way to prove one's worth, a way that could heal, protect, and lead without harm. And so the whisper inside him grew louder, urging him to listen. That morning, he turned his eyes toward the temple of Athena. The goddess of wisdom, they said, never abandoned those who sought clarity. Her presence was not fire or storm, but the calm light of reason. So Jason hoped she might hear his thoughts, even if he could not yet pray. The temple stood high upon a hill, its marble glowing in the dawn. Steps worn by countless pilgrims led upward, quiet and solemn. Jason's heart quickened as he began to climb, each step echoing resolve. He felt the weight of generations, of seekers who had come before him. At the gates, he paused, breathing in the silence of stone and sky. No priests greeted him, no voices broke the morning stillness. It was as though the temple itself waited to hear his purpose. He entered with slow steps, eyes lifted toward the tall columns. Shadows played across carvings of owls and olive branches, Athena's signs. The air was cool, carrying the scent of oil lamps and old prayers. Jason knelt, unsure of words, and let his heart speak instead. He did not ask for strength, for he knew strength fades with time. He did not ask for glory, for he saw glory vanish like smoke. Instead, he asked for guidance, for a path that honored life and truth. His voice was steady, though soft, like water flowing in a hidden stream. Moments passed, and stillness wrapped around him like a cloak. Then, in that silence, something shifted, gentle yet powerful. Jason felt no thunder, no blinding light, no fear of gods. He felt a calm presence, as though wisdom itself sat beside him. A thought entered his mind, clear and certain, though not his own. A hero is not made by the blade, but by the heart that guides it. The words filled him, steadying the storm of doubt. Jason opened his eyes, and the temple seemed brighter, alive with peace. He rose slowly, knowing his journey had only just begun. The call he had felt was real, and now he had heard its answer. He would not chase glory or conquest. His quest was of another kind. It was a quest for understanding, for choices that shaped a better world. Athena had not appeared in form, yet her wisdom had touched his soul. Jason left the temple with steps lighter than when he entered. The village below looked smaller now, distant, almost dreamlike. He knew he must leave it soon, though his heart still clung to home. The road ahead was uncertain, yet the path within was clear. Jason smiled faintly, the first true smile in many days. The call to adventure was no longer a whisper. It was his destiny. The sun had climbed higher, and Jason walked the path that curved back to his village. He carried no treasure, no vision of thunder, yet his heart felt changed forever. Every sound around him seemed sharper, each leaf alive with hidden meaning. He remembered the words within his mind, a truth simple yet profound. A hero is not made by the blade, but by the heart that guides it. Those words rang louder than any battle horn, steady as a compass within. He passed shepherds tending their flocks, their laughter drifting across the fields. He thought of their lives, quiet and unrecorded, yet worthy of honor. Were they not heroes too, shaping the world with patience and care? Jason realized greatness was not in being remembered, but in living well. As he entered the village, familiar faces greeted him with cheerful voices. Children ran across the square, chasing each other with sticks and dreams. Elders sat beneath the olive tree, trading stories of harvest and rain. Jason watched them with new eyes, humbled by the rhythm of their lives. He felt a growing duty, not to rule, but to serve, with wisdom. Soon, however, a need arose that tested his resolve more deeply. The bridge beyond the village had broken after days of storm and flood. Merchants could not pass, travelers stood waiting, and fear spread of famine. Many looked to Jason, for they trusted his strength and determination. He could have gathered men to build fast, using force and command. Yet the whisper of Athena lingered, urging patience, urging kindness instead. Jason called the villagers together beneath the broad shadow of the olive tree. He spoke not with orders, but with calm words of unity and hope. "This task is not mine alone," he said, "but ours if we walk together." At first, the people murmured, doubtful of their own skill and worth. But Jason smiled, steady as stone, reminding them of what they carried within. Strength is many hands joined, not one hand raised above the rest. The words moved them, and slowly they gathered tools, ropes, and timbers. Men, women, and children worked side by side, lifting and binding beams. Laughter returned as they sang, their voices weaving into the sound of labor. Jason did not stand apart but joined them, sweat upon his brow. He carried stones, tied knots, and encouraged those who grew weary. The broken bridge rose again, not through command, but through shared effort. When it was finished, the sun was low, painting gold upon the water. The people cheered, not for Jason alone, but for the spirit they discovered. Children ran across the bridge, their laughter echoing like bells of triumph. Elders clasped Jason's hands, their eyes filled with gratitude and trust. In that moment, Jason felt a deeper joy than any tale of conquest. For he had seen the truth. Leadership was not ruling, but serving all. That night, the village feasted, laying bread, olives, and wine upon the tables. Songs rose beneath the stars, praising not war, but the strength of unity. Jason sat quietly, listening, his heart warm with humble satisfaction. He felt Athena's presence again, soft as the rustle of leaves at night. Her voice was not loud, but clear within the stillness of his thoughts. Remember, Jason, wisdom is in the way you lift others with you. He bowed his head, whispering thanks, though no one heard his words. For the first time, he understood that his journey was already shaping him. The call to adventure was not only in distant lands, but here at home. The stars above gleamed like eyes, watching, silent and eternal. Jason closed his eyes, holding the wisdom close, ready for what lay ahead. The next morning came with soft light spilling over the rooftops of the village. Jason awoke with a sense of restlessness, his heart eager for what lay beyond. He had rebuilt the bridge, but he knew it was only the beginning of his path. The whisper within him grew stronger, like a tide pulling him toward open waters. He walked to the edge of the village, where the river bent like a silver ribbon. Fishermen called out their greetings, their nets heavy with the gifts of the stream. Jason smiled, yet his thoughts wandered far beyond the familiar fields and homes. He felt that destiny awaited, not in the comfort of his village, but on the horizon. The sea called to him, vast and endless, filled with promise and unknown trials. He remembered the calm presence of Athena within the temple's stillness. Her wisdom had steadied him, but now it urged him forward to greater steps. As he lingered by the river, an old traveler approached, leaning on a wooden staff. The man's eyes were sharp, gleaming with knowledge of many roads and journeys. "You look toward the sea," the traveler said, his voice worn but strong. Jason nodded, feeling the truth of his longing too deep to hide. "Do not know where I am meant to go," he admitted softly. The old man studied him for a moment, then smiled as though he understood. "Paths reveal themselves not to the proud, but to those who walk humbly," he said. Jason bowed his head, recalling Athena's voice, and felt comfort in the words. The traveler pointed toward the southern hills, where the road met the horizon. "Go there," he said, "and you will find the sea waiting for your courage." Jason thanked him, but when he turned, the man was already walking away. It was as if he had appeared only to deliver a message, and then vanish. Jason returned to the village to prepare, his resolve clear and unwavering. He gathered food, a small cloak, and the tools of a simple traveler. The villagers asked him where he was going, but he could not fully answer. "Beyond the hills," he said, "to seek what the gods wish me to learn." There was sadness in their eyes, but also pride, for they knew he was chosen. That night, Jason sat alone beneath the stars, the sky wide and eternal. He thought of the bridge, of the unity of his people, and of Athena's gift. These were not small things, but lessons to carry into greater challenges. The next morning, he set out. His steps light, though the journey ahead was long. The road wound through fields of grain, golden in the rising sun. Jason walked steadily, listening to the wind rustle through the stalks of wheat. Every sound reminded him that the world was alive with hidden wisdom. He came upon a grove of olives, their silver leaves shimmering in the light. There, he felt again the quiet watch of Athena, guiding him without words. At midday, he rested beside a stream, cool water soothing his tired hands. He gazed at his reflection, not as a boy, but as a man becoming. The journey was shaping him already, though he had not yet touched the sea. He felt fear rise, but alongside it came courage, steady as a companion. By evening, he reached the southern hills, where the land rose against the horizon. The air smelled of salt, and in the distance, he heard the cry of gulls. Jason climbed slowly, his heart beating with both dread and wonder. At the top of the hill, the world opened before him in brilliance. The sea stretched endless and blue, glimmering like a field of stars by day. Jason fell silent, awed by its vastness, humbled by its eternal power. Here, he knew, his true journey would begin, guided by wisdom and courage. Athena's voice stirred once more in his heart, calm and steady as before. The sea holds many lessons, Jason. Walk forward with patience and trust. He breathed deeply, letting the words sink into the marrow of his being. The horizon waited, promising trials, mysteries, and the shaping of a hero. And so Jason began the descent toward the shore, ready to meet his destiny. The morning air carried the scent of salt and seaweed as Jason descended the hillside. Each step brought him closer to the endless water that gleamed beneath the sun. The waves rolled gently, steady as a heartbeat, their rhythm echoing across the shore. Jason stood in silence, humbled by the vastness stretching farther than his sight. The sea seemed alive, whispering stories of lands unknown and trials unseen. For a moment, doubt crept in, asking if he was ready to leave home behind. Yet the memory of Athena's wisdom rose within him, firm as stone in the tide. He took a deep breath, knowing the sea was not his enemy, but his teacher. On the sand nearby, fishermen prepared their small boats for the morning's catch. They greeted Jason warmly, offering bread and water as he approached. One elder among them studied him with a gaze sharp as a hawk's. "You are not here to fish," the elder said, his voice certain and calm. Jason nodded, unable to hide the truth from one who had seen much. "I seek a journey," he replied, "to learn what lies beyond these waters." The elder considered him, then pointed toward a weathered ship by the rocks. It was not large, but its frame was strong, built to endure both wind and wave. "She has carried men to many coasts," the elder said, "and she waits for you." Jason placed his hand upon the wood, feeling the strength within its timbers. The vessel seemed to welcome him, as though it knew his destiny. The fishermen helped him gather supplies, water jars, ropes, and simple food. They did not ask for payment, for they felt the god's hand in his quest. As the sun climbed higher, Jason prepared the ship with steady hands. Though he had never sailed alone, courage filled the spaces where fear lingered. He pushed the boat into the water, the waves lifting it with gentle power. The villagers stood upon the shore, their voices carrying prayers of safety. Jason raised his hand in farewell, his heart heavy yet strengthened by hope. The sail caught the wind, and the ship moved, slow but steady, into open waters. The coastline faded behind him, shrinking into a thin line against the horizon. He felt both sorrow and freedom, a balance that marked the start of all journeys. The sea stretched, wide, reflecting the sky like a mirror of endless blue. Jason listened to the creak of wood and the soft hiss of the waves. Every sound reminded him that he was part of something larger than himself. By midday, the waters grew restless, small waves tossing the ship about. Jason gripped the ropes, steadying the sail, his body moving with the rhythm. He recalled Athena's voice, patience and trust, even when the way grows rough. Hours passed, the skies shifting from gold to silver as clouds gathered above. A light rain fell, cool and cleansing, baptizing him into the life of the sea. Jason welcomed it, feeling as though the ocean itself was testing his resolve. He whispered a prayer, not for rescue, but for wisdom to endure with grace. The rain soon passed, leaving the air clear and sharp with the scent of salt. The setting sun painted the waves with fire, red and gold across the horizon. Jason anchored the ship, letting it drift while he gazed at the boundless sea. In the quiet, he spoke softly, though none but Athena could hear. "Guide me, goddess, as you have before. Let my heart remain steady and true." A calm warmth filled him, like light shining through clouds after a storm. He knew Athena walked beside him, though unseen, shaping each step he took. Night fell, stars spilling across the sky like countless watchful eyes. Jason lay upon the deck, listening to the sea's lullaby as he closed his eyes. Sleep came gently, carrying him deeper into the heart of his adventure. The sea had accepted him, and his journey had truly begun. The dawn broke softly, painting the sea with hues of rose and pale gold. Jason stirred from sleep, the wooden deck warm beneath his hands. He sat up slowly, the horizon stretching before him like an endless promise. The waves lapped gently, no longer restless, but calm, steady, and kind. He breathed deeply, filling his chest with the salt-rich air of new beginnings. For a time, he watched the gulls glide, their wings sharp against the sky. Each bird seemed to move with purpose, their flight a lesson in quiet trust. Jason whispered to himself that he too must trust the wind and waves. By midday, the sun shone high, its light scattering diamonds across the sea. Jason unfurled the sail, guiding the vessel with hands growing sure and steady. Every rope he tied felt like binding a piece of his own spirit to the ship. He learned quickly, as if the sea itself was teaching him with patience. At times, a sudden gust pulled hard, and his heart raced with the struggle. Yet he smiled, for each challenge became a lesson instead of a defeat. The ship responded, alive under his touch, as though sharing his resolve. It creaked and groaned, but always moved forward, loyal to its path. Jason thought of the villagers, their blessings echoing still in his ears. He wondered if they had seen this same horizon long ago in their youth. Their prayers carried him now, woven into the wind like threads of hope. As the afternoon passed, Jason saw shapes rise faintly against the horizon. At first, he thought they were clouds, drifting low and heavy above the sea. But soon he realized they were islands, dark silhouettes calling him closer. His heart leapt, for this was no longer endless water, but the sign of discovery. The ship pressed forward, the current guiding him toward unknown shores. Jason stood tall, excitement blooming, though tempered by quiet caution. The islands grew sharper, their cliffs rising like guardians of hidden secrets. Birdsong carried faintly across the air, mingling with the hum of the sea. Jason's curiosity deepened, pulling him into the mystery of what lay ahead. Would he find people there? Or silence kept by stone and trees? Would Athena's wisdom appear in voices, or only in the hush of the land? The ship eased into calmer waters as it neared the sheltered bay. Jason lowered the sail, guiding the vessel with careful patience. He marveled at the green slopes climbing steeply from the shore. Tall trees crowned the heights, their leaves whispering to the wind. The beach lay untouched, golden and bright beneath the setting sun. Jason let the anchor fall, the chain rattling into the depths below. He sat for a long time, gazing at the land, wondering at its story. It was a place untouched by haste, a world apart from restless men. He felt Athena near, her unseen hand steadying his restless thoughts. "Observe first." Her voice seemed to echo, calm and unhurried. Jason obeyed, letting the evening fall as a blanket over the sea. Stars returned, scattered jewels above, watching his quiet vigil. He listened to the island's silence, broken only by soft waves. It seemed to breathe, alive with secrets he had yet to uncover. Jason closed his eyes, not in sleep but in gentle reflection. He thanked the sea for carrying him, thanked the gods for their light. He prayed for guidance, not in power, but in clarity of heart. The night deepened, cool air wrapping him in its quiet embrace. When at last he drifted to rest, the island waited with patience. The dawn to come would reveal more than just a new land. It would open a chapter, written not with conquest, but with discovery. Jason's journey had shifted, from crossing waters to touching earth. And Athena, unseen yet present, guided him still toward wisdom. The morning sun rose bright, spilling light over the island's quiet shore. Jason awoke to the sound of waves brushing gently against the hull. He stretched his limbs, then gazed at the land that beckoned him forward. The trees shimmered in gold, their leaves moving like whispers in the breeze. Jason felt a pull in his chest, urging him to step onto the sand. With care, he lowered a small boat and rowed slowly toward the beach. The oars dipped and lifted, leaving ripples that caught the rising light. When the boat touched ground, Jason stepped out and felt the earth beneath. The sand was cool, soft, and welcoming, as though greeting a long-lost guest. He stood still, listening to the silence that filled the morning air. It was not empty silence, but a silence alive with hidden voices. Birds called gently from branches, their songs weaving into the wind. Jason breathed deeply, sensing that this place was not ordinary ground. Athena's presence stirred faintly, as if guiding each of his steps. He walked inland, his eyes wide with awe at the green rising slopes. The forest welcomed him with shade and the fragrance of pine. Each path seemed to open at his approach, leading him farther inside. The trunks were tall and ancient, marked by centuries of quiet life. Jason placed his hand upon one, feeling strength older than memory. He whispered thanks, though he knew no one but the trees could hear. Deeper he walked, until he found a clearing bathed in soft light. A spring bubbled gently there, water flowing clear as polished glass. Jason knelt beside it, cupping the cool water into his hands. It tasted pure, filling him with calm, like wisdom entering his soul. By the spring stood a stone, weathered and etched with faint marks. Jason studied it closely, tracing the grooves with patient fingers. The shapes told no clear story, yet they pulsed with quiet power. He wondered if others before him had sought this same hidden place. Perhaps it was a place where mortals and gods once shared words. As he lingered, the air grew hushed, as though awaiting something. Jason felt his heart quicken, not in fear, but in sacred wonder. The trees leaned gently, their branches weaving shadows across the ground. Athena's voice, soft yet firm, seemed to rise within his mind. You stand in a place of learning, Jason. Listen well and walk with care. Jason bowed his head, humbled by the unseen guidance around him. He whispered his promise to walk with patience, not with haste. From the clearing, a narrow path curved toward the slopes beyond. Jason followed it, guided by trust more than by sight or reason. The path climbed gently, revealing glimpses of the sea below. Each step carried him higher into the embrace of the island's heart. Birds circled above, their wings silver in the midday sun. Jason felt as though they too were watching and guiding his journey. At last, he reached a high ridge overlooking the boundless sea. The sight filled him with wonder, a view vast enough to still the soul. Here, he understood that the island was more than land and stone. It was a place of reflection, a mirror of his own searching spirit. Athena's presence warmed him once more, calm as a steady flame. "Do not rush toward destiny," her voice whispered, "for wisdom grows slowly." Jason nodded, though no one was there to see his quiet vow. He sat upon the ridge, letting the wind carry away his restlessness. Hours passed, yet he felt no impatience, only deepening peace. The sun began to sink, brushing the sky with colors of fire. Jason descended slowly, returning to the shore as night approached. The ship waited, anchored still, faithful as a friend left behind. Jason looked back at the island, bowing once in gratitude and respect. He did not yet know all its secrets, but it had already taught him. Wisdom is not found in conquest, but in listening to silence and stone. As stars filled the sky once more, Jason prepared for the next day. The journey was far from over, but his heart grew steady with purpose. And in the stillness, Athena's presence remained, guiding him forward. The dawn returned, casting silver light across the calm sea and quiet shore. Jason rose from the deck, his spirit refreshed, his purpose steady. The island behind him glowed in morning haze, a silent guardian of wisdom. He lifted the anchor, letting the ship drift free into the gentle tide. Wind stirred softly, filling the sail as the vessel leaned into motion. Jason guided the ropes with care, hands firm yet calm in their work. The sea welcomed him once more, its rhythm now familiar and kind. He thought of Athena's voice, reminding him to be patient, to observe. Every wave carried him forward, yet also reminded him of balance. He whispered a promise to remain steady, even when storms might come. As hours passed, the horizon shifted, revealing distant shadows ahead. Dark lines of land rose faintly, waiting like secrets hidden in the mist. Jason's heart quickened, not with fear, but with anticipation of the unknown. The ship pressed onward, guided by wind, wave, and unseen wisdom. By midday, the sun burned high, and the waters shimmered with light. Jason shielded his eyes, watching the outlines of a new island grow clear. This land was different. Rugged cliffs crowned with white stone towers. He marveled, wondering who had built such structures above the sea. Were they homes of mortals, or temples where gods once walked? The cliffs seemed alive, their faces carved by time and memory. Jason steered the ship toward a narrow cove hidden between the rocks. Waves softened as he entered, guiding him into calmer waters. He lowered the sail and let the anchor settle into the deep. The air smelled of herbs and flowers carried down from the cliffs. Jason sat still, listening to the new land's quiet welcome. Birds circled above, their cries echoing across the stone ridges. He felt Athena's nearness again, like a quiet flame in his chest. Her presence steadied him, reminding him to walk with humility. Jason lowered a small boat and rowed toward the rocky shore. Each stroke carried him closer to the mystery of this place. When he reached the shore, he climbed carefully onto smooth stones. The cliffs rose steeply, yet a narrow path wound upward among them. Jason followed, his steps slow, each one echoing in the silence. The climb was steady, the air growing cooler as he rose higher. Halfway up, he paused, gazing out at the sea below. The view stretched wide, his ship a small shadow resting in the cove. He smiled softly, knowing the sea had become his constant companion. At last, he reached the top, where the land opened wide before him. There stood pillars of stone, weathered but strong, marking an ancient place. Grass swayed gently between them, carrying the scent of earth and sky. Jason walked carefully, sensing the ground held memories of sacred rites. In the center stood an altar, simple and bare, carved from the rock. He approached, bowing his head in quiet respect for what it once held. Though no offerings lay there now, the place was rich with silence. Athena's voice stirred within him, calm and clear as running water. This is not a place for conquest, Jason. It is a place to listen. Jason knelt, resting his hands upon the stone, feeling its cool strength. He closed his eyes, letting the wind carry whispers across his spirit. Visions came of sailors, of seekers, of voices raised in prayer. He saw how many had stood where he now knelt, searching as he did. The altar was not an end, but a meeting place of questions. Jason rose slowly, his heart humbled by the weight of unseen history. He walked among the stones, each step echoing with reverence. Here, he felt not alone, but joined by countless seekers of old. The sky grew warm with evening light, painting the pillars with gold. Jason knew it was time to return, yet he lingered in gratitude. He bowed once more, whispering thanks to the goddess who guided him. Descending the path, he carried the silence of the place within him. The sea welcomed him back, the ship waiting as faithful as ever. Stars began to bloom above as night folded gently over the land. Jason rested on the deck, gazing upward, his heart steady with calm. He knew his journey was not about the distance, but about the learning. And as the waves rocked him into sleep, Athena's presence remained. The next dawn broke with colors of rose and gold stretching across the wide horizon. Jason stirred awake, feeling the steady rocking of the gentle sea. The air was cool, carrying the scent of salt and wild blossoms from the cliffs. He stood on deck, gazing at the fading island that now rested behind him. Its ancient pillars glowed in the rising light, like sentinels watching his departure. Jason whispered a quiet farewell, grateful for the wisdom it had given. The sails caught the morning wind, and the ship leaned forward with grace. The waters shimmered with brightness, each wave flashing like polished glass. Jason felt a sense of renewal, as though the sea itself blessed his course. He turned his thoughts inward, remembering Athena's words to listen deeply. The goddess's voice lingered in his mind, firm yet calm like the tide. Each place you visit holds more than stones or silence, Jason. It holds meaning. He carried those words as the ship sailed farther into the open expanse. Hours passed with only the company of seabirds soaring against the sky. Their cries echoed through the air, guiding him as if they too knew his path. By midday, the horizon shifted, revealing an island draped in deep green. Dense forests covered the land, with rivers sparkling like silver threads. Jason steered toward it slowly, his heart filled with gentle curiosity. This island felt alive, its trees swaying like guardians with hidden voices. The closer he came, the clearer he saw waterfalls tumbling from high cliffs. They poured into lagoons, filling the air with a sound both soothing and strong. He anchored near a small bay, where the water gleamed like crystal. Jason lowered a boat and rowed toward a sandy shore, lined with tall trees. The forest greeted him with whispers of leaves and the scent of pine. Stepping onto land, he paused, feeling the ground soft beneath his feet. The canopy above stretched high, filtering the sunlight into gentle beams. Birds flitted between branches, their colors bright as jewels in the green. Jason walked deeper, following a narrow trail hidden among the roots. Each step drew him closer to the heart of the island's living spirit. The forest seemed to breathe with him, its rhythm slow and steady. He felt Athena's nearness again, guiding his attention to small details. The sound of water drew him toward a clearing lit by open sky. There, a river flowed swift and pure, its current lively with energy. Jason knelt by the bank, cupping his hands to drink the cool water. It refreshed him, as though the island itself welcomed his presence. He sat in stillness, listening to the music of water and wind. Athena's voice stirred gently, like a breeze weaving through the branches. This is a place of growth, Jason. A place where nature teaches balance. Jason looked around, noticing how each tree grew with both strength and grace. Roots twisted deep, yet branches stretched freely toward the sunlit sky. He understood that strength and openness could exist together in harmony. Jason lingered in the clearing, breathing deeply, feeling the lesson settle. The river's flow reminded him that every path continues, never halting. When he rose, his steps carried newfound steadiness and quiet clarity. He followed the river upstream until it led him to a tall cascade. Mist rose in clouds, wrapping him in a cool and gentle embrace. Jason stood at its base, humbled by its ceaseless fall and endless power. He whispered gratitude to the goddess, to the island, to the flowing water. Turning back, he walked slowly through the forest toward the waiting shore. Every sound seemed richer now, every detail more alive with meaning. The ship awaited in the bay, patient as always, rocking in rhythm. Jason climbed aboard, his spirit calm yet lifted with quiet wonder. As evening fell, stars appeared, scattered like seeds across the sky. Jason rested on the deck, listening to the sea's lullaby once more. He closed his eyes, knowing the journey was shaping not just his path. It was shaping his heart, teaching him to see the world with reverence. And in the silence between waves, Athena's wisdom remained close. The morning rose quiet, with the sea smooth as glass beneath the pale sky. Jason stood on deck, breathing deeply, his heart calm, yet expectant. The forested island was now a memory, its lessons carried within him. Athena's words lingered in his mind, like stars that never faded. He lifted the anchor, setting the ship into motion once more. Winds stirred gently, guiding the sails as though unseen hands helped him. The ship moved steady, its bow cutting through the shimmering waves. Jason watched seabirds wheel above, their wings wide against the bright sky. He felt guided, as if even the creatures of air shared the path. Hours passed before the horizon revealed a strange and wondrous sight. An island appeared, ringed by white sand that glowed in sunlight. Beyond the shore rose gardens, lush with flowers of vivid colors. The air itself shimmered with fragrance, carried across the waves. Jason's heart stirred with wonder, for the land seemed touched by grace. He guided the ship toward the calm waters of its shining bay. Dropping anchor, he lowered a boat and rowed toward the shore. The sand was soft beneath his feet, warm like woven silk. Birds sang among flowering trees, their songs bright and full of joy. Jason walked slowly, marveling at the harmony of sound and color. Every tree seemed planted with care, every flower opening toward the sun. It was as though the island itself was shaped with tender hands. He followed a winding path, lined with blossoms of gold and blue. The fragrance was so strong, it felt like a song filling the air. Soon he entered a clearing where fountains rose from stone basins. Water danced upward, catching the light in sparkling patterns. Jason paused, listening to the sound, which was soft yet full of life. Athena's voice returned, calm and steady within his thoughts. This place is beauty, Jason. But beauty is more than what the eyes see. Jason looked around, understanding that beauty here was living balance. Every detail existed not for excess, but for harmony and peace. He knelt beside a fountain, touching the cool water with gentle hands. Its clarity reflected his face, calm yet thoughtful. He whispered thanks, knowing that even beauty was a lesson to honor. As he rose, a breeze stirred, scattering petals across the clearing. They floated down like blessings, resting on his shoulders and hair. Jason smiled softly, feeling both humbled and uplifted. He walked farther into the gardens, where statues stood among the flowers. They were not of warriors, but of teachers, poets, and healers. Each figure seemed alive, eyes carved to gaze with quiet wisdom. Jason paused before one statue of a woman holding an open book. Her face was calm, her presence both gentle and strong. Felt Athena's nearness again, reminding him to seek knowledge. Jason bowed his head, honoring the wisdom the statue represented. He understood beauty was also found in truth, learning, and sharing. The garden deepened his heart's resolve to seek with patience. The sun shifted higher, painting the flowers with glowing light. Jason lingered, then turned slowly toward the path back to the sea. The air was still sweet, but his spirit now felt fuller. He knew the journey was guiding him not just across waters. It was shaping him into a seeker of meaning beyond himself. When he reached the shore, the ship waited quietly, faithful and still. Jason climbed aboard, his heart steady and his mind calm. He raised the sail, letting the wind carry him once again. The island grew small behind him, its gardens glowing in memory. He whispered a farewell, carrying its lessons within his soul. As night fell, stars filled the vast sky like scattered lanterns. Jason lay on the deck, watching them flicker with eternal fire. He felt at peace, knowing Athena's wisdom guided every step. The journey was not only about reaching lands, but becoming more whole. With that thought, he closed his eyes, resting as waves carried him on. The dawn rose soft and pale, spreading light across the endless sea. Jason stirred from sleep, the waves steady beneath the wooden deck. The stars faded slowly, giving way to the warmth of morning skies. He breathed deeply, carrying with him the memory of gardens behind. Their beauty lingered in his mind like fragrance that would not fade. Athena's words returned, reminding him that true beauty is harmony. He looked out at the horizon, wondering where the sea would lead. The ship moved forward, its sail catching the gentle morning wind. Jason's heart was steady, his spirit open to lessons yet to come. By midday, shadows appeared on the horizon, darker than islands before. They grew taller as he approached, rising like stone towers from the sea. The land was rugged, cliffs of gray rock carved by time and storm. Jason guided the ship into a cove, where the waters grew calmer. The cliffs loomed above, their walls echoing with the cries of seabirds. He anchored the ship, then lowered a boat and rowed toward the shore. The rocks were sharp, yet a narrow path wound upward between them. Jason climbed carefully, his steps echoing against the silent stone. The air was cool, carrying the faint scent of earth and rain. At the top, the land opened wide, revealing a valley of stone. It was bare, save for a single tree standing tall at its center. Jason walked toward it, his footsteps slow, his heart filled with wonder. The tree's branches spread wide, though its trunk was twisted with age. Leaves shimmered in the sunlight, though the land around was dry. Jason approached, resting his hand gently against the rough bark. Athena's presence stirred within him, calm and steady as ever. This tree is strength, Jason. It thrives even where the land is barren. Jason gazed at the branches, understanding the quiet lesson it gave. Strength was not loud or boastful. It was quiet, enduring, patient. He knelt at its roots, seeing how they reached deep into stone. Though the valley was dry, the tree found water hidden below. Jason realized true resilience comes from seeking strength where none seems clear. He sat in silence, letting the wisdom of the place enter his heart. A breeze stirred the branches, scattering leaves that fell like blessings. Jason lifted one, pressing it gently against his palm in gratitude. He whispered thanks, not only to Athena, but to the land itself. When he rose, he felt taller, steadier, as though the lesson shaped him. He walked slowly back along the rocky path toward the waiting shore. The cliffs echoed with his steps, carrying the rhythm of his resolve. At the cove, the sea shimmered in shades of silver and blue. Jason rowed to the ship, his heart calm and strong with purpose. He lifted the anchor, guiding the vessel back into the open sea. The wind filled the sail, carrying him farther into the wide horizon. As day faded, the sky burned with gold, then deepened into indigo. Jason lay on the deck, watching the first stars pierce the night. He thought of the tree, standing tall against the barren stone. Its image stayed with him, reminding him of patience and quiet power. Athena's voice echoed softly, guiding his thoughts into peaceful rest. Remember, Jason, strength is not in defiance, but in endurance. Jason closed his eyes, the sea rocking him into gentle slumber. The ship drifted steady beneath the vast and endless sky. And in his dreams, the tree stood tall, its roots reaching ever deeper. The sea was calm, its surface shining like a mirror beneath the gentle light of dawn. Jason stood at the bow of his ship, the horizon wide and endless before him. The air was soft, filled with the scent of salt and the promise of journeys yet untold. Athena's voice lingered in his thoughts, calm and steady like the tide itself. You have walked the path, Jason, and the lessons now belong to you. He closed his eyes, recalling the wisdom gathered from valleys, gardens, and temples. Each place had shaped him, giving him strength not of arms, but of spirit. The trials were never about conquest, but about patience, humility, and understanding. Jason exhaled slowly, his heart lighter than it had been at the start. The Argonauts, his companions, moved quietly across the deck, tending to the sails. They too carried their own lessons, though no words were needed to share them. The journey had been more than a voyage. It was a weaving of many souls. As the sun rose higher, the waters turned to silver, shimmering with gentle motion. Jason leaned against the rail, watching dolphins leap gracefully beside the ship. Their freedom was a reminder of the joy hidden in life's simplest rhythms. Athena's presence grew faint, as if she were stepping back into the divine. Her final words lingered, soft as a breeze brushing across his thoughts. Wisdom is not to be kept, Jason, but to be lived and given freely. He opened his eyes, smiling at the truth carried within those parting words. The ship moved toward the horizon, carrying them closer to their homeland. The thought of returning did not bring pride, but quiet gratitude instead. For Jason knew he was not the same man who first set sail. The reckless spark in him had become steady, shaped by trials of heart. He turned and saw the faces of his friends, weathered yet bright with trust. Together they had faced storms, valleys, and lessons carved deep into memory. The sea stretched wide behind them, carrying echoes of songs and voices past. Yet the future waited ahead, and Jason's heart was open to its call. By evening, the sky burned gold, casting long reflections upon the restless water. Jason sat upon the deck, tracing the stars as they appeared one by one. He thought of the tree, standing tall in its barren valley of stone. He thought of the garden, fragrant with blossoms that never faded away. He thought of Athena, guiding him with patience and unwavering light. Each memory was not a weight, but a thread, weaving his story into wholeness. The sea rocked gently, as though the world itself whispered lullabies of peace. Jason spoke softly to himself, his voice carried away by the wind. Strength, patience, harmony, and love. These are the gifts I will keep. The stars above shimmered like eyes watching kindly from the heavens. Jason felt no fear, only calm, as the ship moved steadily onward. His story was not of battles won, but of wisdom gathered in silence. The Argonauts laughed quietly, their voices carrying warmth across the deck. Jason listened, letting the sound wash over him like waves upon the shore. In that moment, he knew the true treasure of his voyage was not gold. It was the bond of friendship, the lessons of the gods, and the growth of the soul. The night deepened, wrapping the world in a blanket of stars and sea. Jason lay upon the deck, eyes open to the vast and endless sky. Athena's voice, now only a whisper, drifted like a dream into his heart. Well done, Jason. Walk forward with wisdom and let your spirit guide others. Jason smiled, closing his eyes, carried into rest by the rhythm of the waves. The ship drifted onward, steady, toward tomorrow and the light of new beginnings. And so the tale of Jason and Athena found its quiet and gentle close.